Melissa Jefferson-Wooden walked into Stadium in New York City and reminded the sport who the fastest woman in the world is. In the women's 200-meter final at the 2026 USATF Championships, she blitzed the turn, opened a gap down the straightaway, and crossed the line in a time that nearly matched the fastest 200 she's ever run. Let's break down exactly what happened on that track and why this run matters more than the number on the clock suggests. Sunday, July 26th, marked the final day of the 2026 USATF Outdoor Track and Field Championships, and Stadium was packed for the biggest sprint showdown of the weekend. Jefferson-Wooden had opted out of the 100 meters entirely this year, watching from her hotel a day earlier, as training partner Sha'Carri Richardson claimed her own national title in the sprint. With that out of the way, Jefferson-Wooden turned her full attention to defending the 200. Qualifying fastest into the final with a 22.50 in the semifinal. Cambria Sturgis and Jaden Mays were the next fastest qualifiers behind her, going 22.58 and 22.85, but nobody in that field looked capable of matching her top gear once the final actually started. The stands at Stadium were loud, packed with fans who had come to see the last big domestic meet of the season before the sport heads overseas for the rest of the summer. When the gun went off, Jefferson-Wooden attacked the curve with the kind of controlled aggression that has defined her entire season. She came off the bend already clear of the field, and by the time she hit the home straight at Stadium, the race was essentially decided. The rest of the field was still fighting for position while she was already pulling away toward the line, and the gap only grew with every stride down the straightaway. The wind reading came back at 1.0 meters per second, comfortably inside the legal limit, so every fraction of that performance counts for the record books. She powered through the line in 21.69 seconds, arms already rising before she'd fully finished decelerating. Here's what makes that number remarkable. Jefferson-Wooden's personal best in the 200 meters sits at 21.68 seconds, a mark she produced last year while winning the world title in Tokyo. Running 21.69 means she came within a single hundredth of a second, essentially a blink, of matching the fastest 200 meters she has ever run, and she did it in a domestic championship final rather than a global final with the entire planet watching. Sprinters can spend entire careers chasing a personal best and never sniff it again. Getting this close to your lifetime mark on a random Sunday in New York, months removed from your last major championship, tells you her form hasn't dropped off since Tokyo. If anything, it looks like it's climbing back toward peak level, right as the biggest meets of the year approach. A season's best this late in the summer, run this close to a lifetime mark, is usually a sign that an athlete is peaking on schedule rather than fading, and that's exactly the pattern. Jefferson-Wooden's coaching team will want to see with two major international meets still on the calendar. Now, despite how dominant that run looked, 21.69 did not touch the world record. That mark has belonged to Florence Griffith Joyner since 1988, when she ran 21.34 seconds at the Seoul Olympics, a time that has survived nearly 4 decades of sprinters trying to catch it. It also isn't the championship record. Jamaica's Shericka Jackson holds that one at 21.41, set back in 2023. And it wasn't even the fastest 200 meters run anywhere in the world this season. That distinction belongs to Julianne Alfred of St. Lucia, who clocked 21.51 in Monaco earlier in July. So Jefferson-Wooden's run in New York landed as the third fastest 200 meters in the world this year. A season's best for her personally, sure, but not a world-leading time and nowhere close to Griffith Joyner's untouched record. That distinction matters for anyone just skimming the headlines. This wasn't history being rewritten in New York. It was simply the reigning world champion, proving, again, that she's operating at a level almost nobody else currently entered in this event can touch. Behind her, the race for the other two medals told its own story. Cambria Sturgis crossed in 22.22 seconds to take silver. a solid step forward from her semifinal time the day before. Cameron Dixon rounded out the podium in 22.58 for bronze, edging past the rest of a field that included several athletes chasing their own breakout moment on a national stage in front of a hometown New York crowd. Do the math, and the gap to first place is stark. Jefferson-Wooden beat the silver medalist by more than half a second, an eternity in a race decided in the time it takes to blink twice. In sprinting, half a second isn't a close race. It's a different event entirely. And it's the same story that's been playing out in this event for over a year now. Elsewhere at Econ Stadium that weekend, the men's 200 meters delivered its own drama, with Garrett Colland taking a surprise title in 20Q4 after four-time world champion Noah Lyles pulled up with cramp in the final. It was a reminder that even the biggest names in the sport aren't guaranteed anything on a given day. Jefferson-Wooden, meanwhile, made her title defense look almost routine. It's worth pointing out how close she and Richardson actually are away from the track. The two train together, and Jefferson-Wooden has talked openly about pushing each other in practice, which makes their back-to-back national titles this year feel less like a coincidence and more like a training group operating at the very top of American sprinting. Watching one win the 100 on Saturday and the other dominate the 200 on Sunday at the same stadium says a lot about the environment they've built together. What makes this win even more impressive is the resume building around it. This was her second consecutive USATF title in the 200, extending a run of dominance that started building last year. Since taking bronze in the 100 meters at the Paris 2024 Olympics, the 25-year-old out of Georgetown, South Carolina has lost only 3 of the 29 races she's entered. Her rise didn't happen overnight. She finished 8th in the 100 meters at the 2022 World Championships in Eugene as a relative newcomer, then helped the United States win relay gold at that same meet. More relay medals followed in the seasons after, before she broke through individually with bronze in the 100 at the Paris Olympics, and then swept both sprint titles at the Tokyo World Championships last year. She's the reigning world champion in both the 100 and 200 meters, and she's doing it while leaning more heavily into the 200, a shift she credits with actually sharpening her 100-meter racing too. The Coastal Carolina product isn't just winning individual races anymore. She's redefining what a complete, dominant sprinter's season looks like heading into 2026. So where does she go from here? Jefferson-Wooden confirmed she's heading to the Diamond League final in early September, and after that she'll compete in both the 100 and 200 meters at the inaugural World Athletics Ultimate Championships in Budapest later that same month. That event is brand new to the sport, and having the reigning world champion in both sprints on the start line instantly makes it must-watch television.